let's talk about Tom Brady. Let's talk about the situation that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in right now. Now, obviously, I know most of you probably caught the game. I know most of you probably saw the scores. Tampa Bay Buccaneers absolutely destroyed by the New Orleans Saints. I believe the score was 38-3. Wasn't even close. Tampa Bay was down 5 scores before the half. And, it just really looked like the Saints were running on all cylinders. And this is something that happens in the NFL throughout the course of the season. And it usually picks a different team as you go through the season. But these kind of trends continue to play themselves out in the NFL. You'll see teams that come out of the gates fast. You'll see teams that stumble out of the gates. You'll see teams that are lukewarm out of the gates. They start out 2-2. They start out 1-2, maybe underperform a little bit early in the season. I mean, a lot of different variables this year in regard to how these teams are coming out of the gate and the adjustments that are being made through the initial portions of the season that can give teams the ability to, catch up to the pack. And I think we're seeing that now with New Orleans, mainly because this is a team that, while they came out strong and did beat Tampa, they have the sweep for the series against Tampa, but they did falter a number of games after that, losing to the Raiders, losing to the Packers. And, those were close games, but those were games that New Orleans looked to be, lacking. They looked to be missing something. They didn't seem to have that same kind of consistency that we're used to seeing Drew Brees and company run around with. And since those 2 losses in a row, they haven't lost a game. These guys are on a 5-game streak. And again, they're not, outside of the Lions and the Bucs, you're not really seeing blowouts. You're seeing close games, but maybe that's good and helping the Saints kind of develop some character, develop some resolve within the team. And right now their arrow is pointed straight up. And, for a certain amount of time, I think that a lot of us thought that, the Buccaneers had figured something out too. The Buccaneers came out of the gates against the Saints, got pretty much manhandled. They rung off 3 in a row. I mean, they were playing against lesser competition, yes, but they rung off 3 in a row, lost to the Bears, and they rang off 3 in a row again, lose to the Saints. And, I think we're all kind of right back here again after looking at this team struggle against the New York Giants. We're kind of beginning to scratch our heads. What's going on? And just looking at the game against the Saints, I mean, it really was just not, there just really wasn't anything to it. Tom Brady was 22 for 38, 209 yards, 3 interceptions. Their running game was non-existent. Mike Evans had 64 yards receiving. I mean, these guys really just got the brakes beat off of them by the Saints. But, you watch that game, you break that game down. I looked at that game and it was really, dominoes falling quick. The Buccaneers did not even attempt to run the ball after the first quarter. It felt like they were down so fast, and they were being assaulted with such ferocity that they just could not respond. And I think that they really got away from their game plan. They didn't know what they wanted to do. These guys were coming out on first downs when you're down 3 scores, running play action passes. You've got defensive ends rushing against tight ends on play actions. You think that's going to hold up? You've got Wirfs over there at the right tackle spot, just being abused left and right. I mean, he's been victimized by a couple of defensive ends this year. When you look at what Khalil Mack hip tossed this guy 5 yards. I mean, he's going through growing pains. So, it's just not. You're not ever really able to nail down where uh, where these Bucs are really gonna stick in their stride. They just haven't been able to get in it and stay in it. I think we all thought that they were maybe had turned a corner when they blew out Green Bay, but it seems like that was just an anomaly because then they come back and they struggle and damn near maybe should have lost to the New York Giants. And then they come out against their division opponent, the one opponent that you have to come out with full ferocity against to beat. And they get literally manhandled at every aspect of the game. Antonio Brown makes his debut for the Tampa Bay Bucs, and he's, I think, a 3-catch, 30-yard showing. I think Tom Brady tried to force it in there a lot, unnecessarily. I know he likes AB. I know that AB lives with him. He's cooking food for his kids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, throw the ball to who's open. And, Antonio Brown will find his way into the groove. But what does that say about Antonio Brown's karma that he brings around teams that he joins? Because now, we're looking at this Tampa Bay team like these guys aren't going to even make it out of the division. They're not even going to get into the playoffs. That's kind of where we're at when we're talking about what's going on right now with these Tampa Bay Bucs. Tom Brady doesn't look like the Tom Brady that we're familiar with, that we have been familiar with in the past. His balls are, and I don't put this totally on Tom Brady because if you understand Bruce Arians' offense, you understand this is how bad quarterbacks can look in his offenses. This guy's offense is built around the concept of option routes, and these are options off play actions where you have to have a quarterback turning his head in a hurry, reading the defense, and then knowing that him and the receiver are going to be on the same page to throw the same ball to the same route. This is where Jameis Winston got caught in a lot of things in his time in Tampa Bay, is that he was throwing the ball thinking the receiver was going one route, and the receiver was actually running a different route, and they both were wrong on what coverage they thought they were going up against. So the routes and the coverages, the solution to those have to be synchronized, or it's going to be a rough day for any quarterback in that system. And we saw probably the best example of that with Tom Brady and his performance. 3 interceptions. That's nowhere near what we expect in terms of, performance coming out of Tom Brady. 1 interception, even 2 interceptions in a game, you can look at and say, okay, that's a bad game for Tom Brady. 1 interception, 2 interceptions is a really bad game, but 3 interceptions, it means he's confused on something. It means he's not fully confident in some part. And I know one of those picks was batted by a defensive lineman and, got juggled around and got intercepted. But, I think that there is probably some of that, confusion that you saw with Jameis Winston that is now beginning to kind of take hold with Tom Brady. But we'll see how that plays out. Honestly, I think that, the Buccaneers being swept by the Saints is, I think, virtually, depending on how many teams are going to be in the playoffs this year, I think that might have put the nail in their coffin, unless some things happen for other teams in their out of division games, because that division will play a different division for its out of division games, and the outcome in some of those matchups against division opponents themselves could make a difference. But it's looking rough for the Bucs. They're gonna need to get some things together, and they're gonna need to string together some wins, a lot of them, to keep pace, and hope that those Saints, slip back a little bit.